Okay, here we go. Yeah, so thank you, Charlie. And it was, in my opinion, great news today. I had heard a little bit of a rumbling in the morning from our administration, and then, the news came out a little bit later in the afternoon officially. And so, just a couple of prepared comments. Number one, certainly want to thank the governor and all the individuals in the state government who made this happen. I'm very thankful that our coaches and the student athletes will either A, get back to some normalcy, like with men's and women's basketball, and not have, you know, bigger or big disruptions, with going out of the state to practice. So I'm very thankful for that. I really appreciate my staff. A lot of them did a lot of work, whether it was out of the state or just in preparation, delivering tests. But there is no one that I need to thank more than Deputy AD Braun Cartwright. And he's on this call because, as you guys know, he's the smart guy in the department. I mean, if it wasn't for Braun, I probably wouldn't be on this Zoom right now. He has done everything for our department and deserves a massive amount of credit that I can heap upon him gladly. I also would like to thank the Donate for State people. While this decision will help all of our student athletes. Men and women's basketball were the ones who were out of state often. And I want to thank every single person that donated to that endeavor. I do believe when it's said and done that we are going to reach or be very close to paying all of our expenses associated with this through the Donate for State campaign. So we've got to have this information. Some more of the donations are coming in. We still have men's and women's basketball season ticket revenue that is needs to be accounted for. So I'm really thankful for that. And then certainly, I want to acknowledge the kind of unprecedented communication with UNM and Eddie Nunez. I mean, Eddie and I were friends long before we ever had these jobs, but I've talked to him more than I ever thought I would talk to a rival athletic director. And Ryan Cordova, the AD at Northern New Mexico, he had organized multiple calls with Eastern, Western, New Mexico Highlands, University of the Southwest. So it was great that we all got to kind of experience this together. So while I found out the news today, I had Braun and I were on a call with our head coaches at 6 o'clock, just letting them know the news, trying to answer some of the questions regarding testing and also finding places to play from a competitive standpoint. Obviously, volleyball and soccer are right up on it, as well as men's and women's basketball who have places, but it is possible that we revisit that. So with that said, that's kind of my opening soliloquy, and I'd be happy maybe to take any questions that you all have.
Yeah, Mario, I got a question. Sorry, guys, it's hard for me to hear. What was the reaction from your coaches and or the players when you told them they'd be able to come home?
First of all, they were very excited. But you know what, Lou? It was almost like, we told them, right? Because I think it was Jeff who was reporting on this, that, hey, there might be some movement. I don't think the coaches wanted to believe that. I believed it because I knew what sources were being discussed, but I think they were really under the mindset like, hey, I don't think this is going to happen. And I'd say maybe they were a little, I don't want to say stunned, that might be too pleasantly surprised, I guess might be good, but they were all very excited that, we would be able to practice. And while I haven't spoken to any student athletes, I'm sure they're very excited as well.
What's the, I guess, the plan for bringing the teams back now, Mario? Obviously, both teams have some positive cases at the moment. So just kind of what's the contingency plan for getting them back from Phoenix?
Sure. I haven't had specific one-on-one discussions with the head men's or women's basketball coach. It's my desire to bring the student athletes back, as soon as we are able. Colin, as a reminder, when we had a positive on the road in California, we did specific things to transport that individual back in a safe manner So we'll be having those discussions amongst a lot of other discussions with testing, et cetera, very, very shortly.
Mario, what's the plan then to house them? Are you going to do something similar in a hotel? Are you going to use student housing? Are they going to go back to where they normally were?
Well, that's something that, obviously this news is out today. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of questions that haven't been answered. I believe, every other school around the country is just living the way they used to. We're still going to be testing. They still know they need to be smart. They still know they need to, isolate as much as possible, but, pick some teams. I don't want to, but I guess like whether it's U of A or Arizona State or UTEP or Texas Tech, I'm assuming that, those individuals are living in their apartments and things like that. So that would be my thought, with 400 student athletes. But, and we are regularly testing them. And, I have Braun on here because I know the testing requirements are going to be a little ramped up more than the NCAA. So I think that should give everybody a comfort level that we're really going to be on top of the testing and the contact tracing more than even the NCAA calls for.
Are you able to, like, I don't know what the contract is basically with Arizona Grand. Are you guys able to just come back and not have an outstanding bill for, I know the first go around was a 5-week contract. Are you guys able to get out of whatever your existing contract is financially?
Yeah, there is a stipulation in the contract that if the order is lifted in the state, that we can, in effect, come home without a penalty, what have you, Jeff. I think Braun can, if you want a finer point on that, Braun can give that to you. Does that mean you do not want a finer point on that, Jeff?
No, your point was fine enough for me.
Got it.
Hey, Mario, I guess I know back in November when this was all getting hashed out, the Board of Regents was not too excited about a potential plan of practicing in New Mexico, playing games in El Paso. How about now, 2 months later, is El Paso on the table a little bit more?
I think it is, Colin. We've talked to our campus leadership. I think at the time, when El Paso was the, quote unquote hot spot, I don't know if I did a good enough job illustrating during that presentation that we weren't talking about, or maybe they thought it was exclusively relocating that to El Paso, hotels, things like that. I do think that now that time has passed, a couple of months, that El Paso is definitely an option on the table. And we will take a very good look. And we have had discussions with a lot of different entities in El Paso about potentially competing there, which would by far and away, make the most sense for us.
So is that essentially the plan right now, Mario, is basically get these teams, I guess as it pertains to basketball, since they're in the middle of their season, get them back and practicing in Las Cruces, and then I guess home games is just kind of to be determined. If you can do it in El Paso, great. If you have to go back to Phoenix, you'll do that. Is that kind of the plan as of right now?
Yeah, we have Phoenix. I don't really believe that we have displaced a whole lot of things at Grand Canyon, but I certainly don't want to minimize their involvement in making this happen. But I think now Braun and I, who talk way more than what we should, we'll probably, now that we're not worried about the practice part of it, we will now ramp up our what are some locations in El Paso that might be able to have Division I athletic contests. We have had some conversations. We've had some positivity. We've had some, hey, I don't think this is going to work out, but we'll be working the phones tremendously because I think that would certainly be the easiest, for our teams.
Hey, Mario, is there a possibility maybe even high schools in El Paso? I mean, I know there's some facilities in El Paso that are big enough that could possibly host D1 basketball games. Is that something you're looking at, high schools?
Yeah, Adrian, I don't think anything's out of the question. Certainly it's got to be a collegiate, it's got to be able to handle a collegiate game, whether it's baseball, basketball, whatever. The secondary consideration would be televising the games. You know, with our existing contracts and things like that, we really need these games on TV. Radio obviously is an issue, but I would say those would be my first two needs. Is, hey, it's got to be regulation. It's got to be something that we could host a Division I game in, that would be approved by, I guess, the conference, and that we could televise. I think those are my top two thoughts on a venue.
Can Braun talk a little bit about just kind of ramping up testing procedures and what that consists of?
Well, Andy, it looks like you don't have any confidence in my ability to talk about any of the specifics, but yes, I would agree.
You mentioned like that he would know, that he would have the finer point details. So open it up.
Yes. So yes, I will defer to Braun for the testing.
Yeah, we just got the document this afternoon, so I've gone through it once, and we'll continue to go through it tonight and in the morning. But one of the requirements in there is 3 times a week PCR testing. We've been doing that for our men's and women's basketball team as well as our volleyball team for the past couple of weeks. So we'll look to utilize that. Myself and our head athletic trainer, Dominic Moreno, putting a plan together to start that process.
And then Mario, how does this, I guess, I know it's on the horizon, but football, obviously it's big that they can practice and have a spring season, but and I say spring season, I more so mean spring practices. They also have 3 games that are scheduled there in Las Cruces. I know this is pretty fresh, but has there been any talks in what that looks like?
Well, you know, the thought is we don't really know when and if games will be allowed to take place in the state. So it behooves us to make plans outside the state. And we have talked to, I guess, semi-officially, a couple of locations in the state of Texas to potentially have those football games. Also, those games could turn into road games. So that's a little bit down the road. I mean, I don't want to minimize it. I mean, everything is coming up, but you know, in the what is next category, that's not on the what is next thing, but that is definitely within your top 5 or 10 things to figure out pretty quick.
Mario, in regard to contests, have you talked to the league and what is better scenario? Is it maybe just playing every game at the opponent's home site or finding somewhere in El Paso to play home games?
You know, look, if I had my druthers, and once again, I need to talk to Chris and Brooke, but I believe they would love to play in El Paso if we could work that out. It's a quick drive. You can sleep in your own bed. You know, it doesn't feel as much as a road trip. So in a perfect world, we would be able to find a place in El Paso to have our men's and women's games. So, you know, I will, in addition to all of our contacts, I guess I'll make my plea to all the El Paso folks on here. If they know of anything, I'll take any suggestions that you have, because we're going to look at every single option that's available. That's, you know, with availability, and then we'll, you know, make the best decision for the program in consultation with the coaches. And if it doesn't work out, you know, we have a place in Phoenix for men and women. So that is a great insurance policy.
Hey, Mario, 2 things that are about to happen is I think football wanted to start practice as soon as this Friday, and volleyball has a WAC match, I think on Monday or Tuesday. So can you tell me, can you say now, like, is football going to practice this weekend? And is volleyball going to play in Arizona at this point?
Right now, it is our plan to start football practice on Friday at home. Now, and I know Braun has read through the material. I have not studied it as much as he has, but that is certainly my intention. I believe our intention is to have the practice on Friday at home. And we have been talking to an entity in El Paso for potentially having that Monday and Tuesday volleyball match. I think we also have a backup, you know, the original site that we were going to have it in Tucson. So I think we're looking at a closer option, and we're not prepared to say if that's going to be allowed or not.
And maybe Braun knows, are these practices for all the sports that we're talking about, are they restricted in any ways, like mask wearing or group sizes or anything? Or is it just, Braun, do you know if they are able to do a normal practice?
In normal practice, yes, there's no group size limitation according to the document. There is reference to mask wearing for those individuals that are not actively involved in practicing competitions. So we'll evaluate that as well as we move forward into practices.
As far as coming back into the state after competitions, Mario, what's kind of the setup? Is it more like the New Mexico United thing where they would go play out of state and come back and more basically quarantine for the entire time they were back in the state? Is that kind of what you guys are looking at?
Well, the New Mexico United, I don't know, you'll call it exemption or what have you, or I should say maybe this current document does not call for a quarantine when the athletes come back from playing out of state. That will allow them to continue to have practice, et cetera. That was a biggie. That was a linchpin. Yeah, Colin, we will be able to compete in El Paso and still practice, et cetera, when we return to Las Cruces. Now, remember, we're going to be PCR testing 3 times a week, and we are, have outstanding contact tracing. So I believe, that's why it was written that way.
Mario, could you or Braun kind of talk about when we might see New Mexico State basketball for men's back on the court? I know they've had multiple positives. Are any of those recent positives in these past few days, or are things starting to look up?
Yeah, Justin, I mean, when we announced that, we had multiple, which means more than one positives, but you got to remember contact tracing comes into play with this. So that kind of, when you're talking about the sport of basketball, that puts everybody on the shelf. So I would hope, while this coming weekend's games were not going to be able to be played from the contact tracing, the next weekend is against Grand Canyon. I think Coach Jans, and you're going to have to ask him this yourself, would love to have a game somewhere against somebody prior, that week of the Grand Canyon game.
All right, guys, anything else from Mario or Braun this evening?
Do you think that we can all chip in and get Will a better backdrop than that black curtain in Santa Fe? Will, do you notice that the IT guy who struggles the most has a damn picture of the swimming complex behind him?
You know what he did earlier? Should I tweet the picture of the screenshot I took of you earlier, Will?
Yeah, I'm telling you, I got home 5 minutes ago. That's why I'm still wearing the same sweatshirt. Yeah, I did the presser with Eddie in a Walmart. Frank Macagliano, the SID, he put out the alert 15 minutes before it starts, and I'm in the middle of shopping. So I did it from the frozen food section. It's
nice. Well,
crazy.
This is an upgrade. You kind of have the black on black. This is like a 90s garage band from Seattle. I like that. And the hair.
This is my son's batting cage right here. This is his batting net in the garage. I'm sitting in my garage right now.
Nice. Well, when he's playing for the Aggies,
crazy.
When he's playing for the Aggies, we'll have a good laugh about that. All right. Well, hey, we appreciate it, guys.
Good stuff.
I know there's a lot of questions that are unanswered, but we'll be around as things come up to field them as best as we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mario.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thanks,
Mario.
guys.
Thanks, guys.